Okay, so this is officially recording, Maya, and I appreciate you sort of jumping on and doing this. So why don't you just start by just introducing yourself?
Okay, I'm Maya. I'm 18 years old and I have been diagnosed with ADHD in February of this year. So I've joined George because he's Cypriot just like me, and because I really needed help with my ADHD after my dad actually jumped on a call with George.
Yeah, because you started in my side my program. I think it was either 1 or 2 weeks later. It was
Yeah,
well, it was right 1 or 2 weeks later. And what made you want to join? What did you need support on, and how has the program? I mean, talk to me about what you needed support on. What was you struggling with?
so I was really struggling with knowing who I actually was and knowing my actual potential. I was very much in a imposter syndrome cacophony in my head, thinking that I don't actually have ADHD and I wasn't really sort of accepting it. And I was just very down all the time and just quite angry most of the time for no reason.
So like your emotional dysregulation was one of the things
Yeah,
keeping you up. And I remember actually when I met you, you was quite overwhelmed in spirit, just in
I
general
was.
life.
I was. I was totally lost, I think, in my head and in my thoughts.
You was, and obviously your dad joined, and I suppose we don't need to say his name right now just for privacy and whatnot. But
Yeah.
but your dad joined and he joined and you joined a week later, so he must have obviously seen a benefit in the first few days.
He has. He has. He
Yeah.
saw it immediately.
Yeah, that's really, really good. And I actually remember talking to your dad, and I remember looking at your dad, and then he mentioned you, and I was like, I want to just, I need to help you guys. I just felt obligated in a weird way. And it's a weird thing. It's a weird thing because when I know that I was struggling myself once upon a time with these things, being lost and having those exact same emotional, overwhelming feelings, you can sometimes feel like you're trapped.
Yeah,
You're just trapped. And the only option was because you took medication
I
at the
did.
beginning, Medicaid, innit? And then you come off medication for a little bit, or you were trialing it off
I
medication.
was trialing it, yes.
Yeah. And yeah, I suppose now like you're still like kind of using a little bit now, but it's not as strong as the doses that you once had. Is that
Absolutely. Yeah, it's difficult with the dosages because sometimes they completely overwhelm your body in a way.
yeah, yeah. See, medication can be good and bad, and I suppose it depends on how you use it and
Yeah,
when you use it.
agreed.
You know what I mean? So yeah, no, that's really, really good. And I mean, I'm just curious, Maya, if you don't mind sharing, like, what would you say are the? I just love the smile, by the way. I love the energy. What would you say are the biggest things that you've learned, or how has the program helped you since you've been in the program? What would you say the biggest helps you've had, or biggest whatever? You tell me.
The biggest helps is always having you being like always having someone to talk to and someone that's not in the family and
Mm,
someone who has ADHD and actually understands what someone else is going through. That was the most amazing thing, I think. All the techniques, all your patience obviously has really helped, no matter what, has really helped me. And just understand, like having more of an understanding with myself and with my parents in a way, understanding how my dad's works and how my brain works, my triggers, and what to expect when
yeah,
I have a trigger, and how to sort of stop myself before having an outburst.
yeah. That's incredible. Thanks for sharing. So you've kind of learned like a different sort of way of thinking, techniques, and
Yeah,
strategies that I suppose you're always learning, you're always working, it's always a work in progress, isn't it?
it
Life
is.
you never you don't just wake up perfect, and life is always something you have to work towards, and you have to
And
work
it's never easy.
never easy. But I suppose knowing strategy, support,
Yeah.
is that what you mean? Like that, having that just support.
Having all that support has really helped me.
Amazing. And you mentioned relationships. So how have your relationships gone from, so before I met you, your relationships versus now, how do you think your relationships have improved with your family?
They've improved dramatically, I think. There used to be a phase where there would have been an argument with me and my dad where my mum would be in the middle
Yeah.
nearly every single day,
Well,
mostly. And now it rarely happens. It will happen when something extremely dramatic happens.
yeah. And it's got to be extreme, right? It's got to be extreme. No,
It
that's,
has to be
yeah.
extreme.
Now, do you know, it has been, it's been a pleasure, obviously, working with you. And you've been a pleasure, genuinely. Like, I've always said this about you. Like, you've always been on the sessions. You've always just listened. You've never ever been defensive. You've always had an open mind. You've always just listened and you've taken notes and you've implemented. And there's always something that you can do to improve, and you're always open to listening to that. What
Absolutely.
what would you say are the top three things that you were struggling with before you met me that you feel I've helped you? What would you say the top three, or even if it's not three, what maybe just one big thing? What would you say that one thing is that, or two things that has really helped you
Hmm.
your life since being in the program? What's the one thing or two things? You
Not not caring what other people say in a way. That was a really important thing, sort
fear
of
of
self
judgment.
judgment and self realization.
Mm,
And just the most, I think, understanding that you're not like, I'm not being judged all the time, which is really good and has sort of relieved me from that.
that's amazing. The fear of judgment. That is probably one of the fear of failure, fear of judgment, and fear of criticism. They all kind of they all
We're
link.
still working on fear of failure.
Yeah, but you see, they're like a triangle. They're like a
They
triangle. But
are.
the fear of judgment is probably the most common one I hear, where people don't want to be or do just in case someone says or acts. You know what I mean? So yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing that. And I mean, I'm just curious. I mean, I just want to ask you a last question. If that's okay with you. I mean,
Yes.
someone who's watching this now, whether it's on, I don't know, YouTube or Instagram, I don't know, but say someone is watching this, what advice would you give to that person who is who is listening now,
Hmm.
who's someone who just feels maybe the way you felt? What advice would you give to that person who's thinking about, can I do it on my own? Is it worth it? Is this helpful? Like, what advice would you give someone?
Ask for help from someone. Like, just go and ask that help. Don't be embarrassed, because at the end of the day, without that help, it won't get any better. And you just need to have an open mindset,
Yeah,
because at the end of the day, getting that help will make you improve and relieve your spirituality in a way, and your character as a person. You feel so much more calmer.
yeah. Thank you for sharing. So someone who is like not feeling very calm and someone who is overwhelmed with life, ask for help. And I think that's the best advice you can give, because that is what it takes. All it takes is just asking a question to the right person and they can
Yeah,
tell you.
that
It might,
little bit of courage.
it might not even be me. Sometimes I'm not even the best person to help people, but I always tell people that I try and point you in the right direction
Yeah,
at the very least, because whether I help someone or someone else helps someone, that person, if they need help, they need help. And
they
so
need to.
you've honestly said it perfectly. Just ask for help. And 18 years old, very intelligent girl. Obviously, I tend to only work with business owners and people that are in very serious kind of jobs, like high performing jobs.
Yeah.
But with you, I made an exception because your dad is a very, very well established man and he's a surgeon. And I thought if he's a surgeon, his daughter must be pretty smart. And I just want to let you know that he was completely right about you. You was a smart person, and because of you, you know, it opened up my eyes to actually maybe not just high performing professionals and business owners can take it seriously,
Yeah.
And I really want to drive that home. But you're not just someone who's 18. What are you studying to become? Because I think people need to understand your level of intellect right now.
I'm studying to become a barrister in the political field.
That's insane. So you're not just an 18-year-old. You're
I'm
the
a
18
barrister at heart.
becoming a barrister. That's incredible. That's incredible. And yeah, listen, Maya, honestly, you've been amazing and you've been a pleasure to be with in
Thank
the
you.
program. And I say this time and time again. I wish all people 18, if they were like you, there'll be no issues, with the world because
Thank you.
you've just shown a level of commitment. You've grinded, you've put your head down, you've done all the right things. And even now, even not just in the program, but outside of the program, you're still doing all the right things. You've got your head screwed on. So that's really, really good. And I appreciate you sharing this. And I'll stop the recording. But thank you very much, Maya. I really
No
appreciate you sharing.
worries.
Wait 1 second.